Hey everybody, this video is part of our full-length The Onside Kick podcast. You can find that on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes. You can pretty much find it anywhere, so we don't care where you listen. Just stick around and check it out.
This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them East.
And welcome into another edition of the Onside Kick here on Most Valuable Podcast. If you are on YouTube, hey guys, it is nice to see your faces yet again for another week of football talk. If you're on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, or Stitcher, thank you guys for listening, giving us the download today, tonight, whatever it is, afternoon, wherever it is by you right now. Thank you for listening to us or watching us today. But Mark, we got a jam-packed show. We're going to be talking draft. Not Todd McShay, Mel Kiper came out with his latest mock draft, my 3.0. I plan to drop sometime next week, so be on the lookout for that. I am constructing it as we speak right now. I'm constructing it in my head. But we're going to be talking draft. We're looking at Riddick, we're looking at Foster, and then we're going to look at wide receivers, Zay Jones, and then kind of rank the first-round wide receivers we think. But Mark, we got to start with heavy news before we get into the draft. It seems like this year has been the year that we talk about these things. First it was the Rams, then it was the Chargers. Now the latest team to move from their city today, Las Vegas Raiders.
Yep.
You got a 31-1 vote. They are now moving from Oakland to Las Vegas. I want to get right into this because this is the big thing we're going to start the podcast off with. I'm going to ask you this. What does the Raiders move to Sin City mean for the NFL?
Well, it means big bucks, I think, for the NFL is really what it comes down to.
Cha-ching,
They're
cha-ching.
gonna, yeah, the NFL is going to get paid, and the Oakland Raiders are going to get some big bucks, I think, as well. But at the same time, it also means, fuck you, Mark Davis. That's a shitty move to be like, hey, Oakland fans, you have supported us. And all this time, we have been one of the worst teams in the NFL. We have been terrible. Nothing good has been happening all this time. Hey, we suddenly got good, and there's a lot of promise. We got a young team with a young quarterback. He's a real stud. See you bitches later. We're going to Vegas. Like, come on, man. That's the you're dating somebody. They start getting really buff, or they start looking real good, trimming down, and they say, all right, well, now that I'm hot, I'm out of here. See you later. Like. This is just shitty.
So you think the Raiders right now are buffing?
Oh, yeah.
They're buff and strong.
They're looking good.
I think it's more like they're not buff and strong yet. It's kind of like me when I worked out that one time where it's like, wow, my stomach's a little fatter, but you look in the mirror and it's like, I'm still fat. But I feel better about myself.
I feel good.
That's what the Raiders are right now.
No, the Raiders have a lot of promise right now. They definitely do.
Promise. You can get thinner, but you're still kind of in that middle ground of this season. Is it going to be for real, or is it going to be a fluke? But that's not the question.
For real.
The thing that I look at with this is, first off, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yeah.
You get a brand new stadium, the one thing the Raiders wanted, but also the big thing was the hotel tax that basically, I want to say, what was it? Was like $7 million or something like that, where Vegas was like, fuck it, here it is. Here's your money. We're going to get that from the hotel tax in order to help pay for the stadium in order to get you this new home. And for me, I'm kind of torn on the situation because for the NFL, I mean, there have been some that I've heard that are like, well, you know what? This just means loyalty is out the door.
Oh, it's been gone long ago.
If it's one of those things where we are not loyal to a city, we're not loyal to a fan base, we will leave a team. I don't know if that's necessarily what this means for the NFL. Like, we're not going to be on a watch each and every year for which team is going to eventually move. However, I'm kind of on the fence because if it was me, if I was a Raider fan, Mark, guess what? I wouldn't be a Raider fan today. It's like I always tell, I've told you, I've told Dave, I've told Sean, I've told everyone here at MVP, even though I'm not in Minnesota and not a Minnesota Viking fan, I'm like kind of a surrogate Viking fan living in Chicago. If the Vikings moved from Minnesota, that's not my team. My team is the Minnesota Vikings. I'd become a Bears fan. Like, that's just
As
what
you
it
should.
is. That's what it would be. If, like, that's my Viking team, the one that's in Minnesota, that's where you are. So I can kind of see the fan base side of it, like, they feel spurred.
But their team is good right now, so it's hard to leave when they're good. It's easy when it's the Chargers or the Rams who suck.
But is this, and this is what I'm going to ask with this, is it it's not the fans' fault. Is it the Raiders' fault that they're moving, or is this, hey, back years ago when the NFL and the Raiders said, hey, you got to make a decision. I'm talking about the politicians now in Oakland. They said, you have to make a decision. You have to pick us or the A's. They wanted the A's out of the Coliseum. The NFL wanted just the Coliseum to be for the Raiders. What happened? The whole city of Oakland, and I'm not talking fans, I'm talking politicians, kind of pussyfooted around, didn't commit to, like, yes, the Raiders are our team. They kind of, we don't know what we're going to do. The Warriors got good. Guess what? The Warriors are done in the Oracle after this year. They're moving to the Bay. They're going to San Francisco. The Raiders, they're getting good. Bye, see ya. We're going to Sin City. Oakland, you're stuck with the A's. So to me, I look at this where the fans are totally like, you guys have no blame.
They're not part of the equation.
But part of me feels like, yes, you could see it as a dick move by the Raiders ownership, but put yourself in their shoes. They wanted to be your team, and your politicians, your people that run the city, didn't want to say, you're our team.
Sure, I mean, there certainly could be part of that, but I think they're expecting a little bit much out of what is not one of the major cities either. But I do think that for the ownership with the Raiders, this really plays down to the fact that the NFL is a business, and we talk about it all the time, but this is really just the core of it, it's all about business, it's all about money, it's all about what we can do. We think we can get more money out of Las Vegas, we're going to go there. A player wants to go and get paid the big bucks, so they're going to leave a team and go play for someone else who will give them that big money. It's all about doing what's best for the bottom line in pretty much all of these situations, and that's really what it comes down to. When I think of, is this a sign that there's no loyalty? There hasn't really been a ton of loyalty. Loyalty really is kind of rare nowadays in the NFL and most sports.
Kind of makes you think of basketball when they make fun of that.
Right? And I think that with this, are we going to see a ton more? No, I think this was pretty much it. You saw these three teams that were not in great markets shift around to better markets. LA finally got the team it's been clamoring for.
Got two teams.
It's got the team it's been clamoring for, and then it's got another team that showed up too. Las Vegas, they've been kind of the rumored team. The thing is, like, the other rumors are, London, and it doesn't make sense. So that's not going to happen.
Mexico City.
I was going to say Mexico City, maybe a Toronto or something like that, Montreal. Those aren't probably going to happen either, because you're not really moving from one market to a better market for the NFL. So I don't see a Jacksonville moving. I don't see, a Minnesota moving or anything like that. I don't really see anyone else moving because there's not better options. Your next option is going to be, Sacramento, Oklahoma City, Chicago 2.0?
Well, I mean, you could also have the case where, and I'm not saying any team would, but let's say there is a team that's going to move. Hey, let's go to Oakland. Let's go to San Diego.
Go back and fill that.
You could get that. There could be a team that says, maybe like the Browns, hey, you know what? If they ever decide to leave Cleveland, let's go to St. Louis. Like, maybe you can fill one of those.
The Browns can't leave Cleveland again.
No, they're not. But the one thing that I do want to focus this on is this, to me, the most important thing of this was the vote. Because coming in, I mean, earlier in the day, and I believe I retweeted it on my Twitter, Adam Schefter pretty much said, hey, you know what? Expect it to pass. Expect the 24 votes that it needs to get to be had. But when this vote came in, it was 31-1. And I looked at that and went, huh? Like, you don't see that often. And the only owner that really said no to this was Stephen Ross, the owner for the Miami Dolphins. And he said that the reason why he voted no was because of the fans in Oakland, because of that, like, he felt sorry. Like, you don't leave the fan base. And the thing that this makes me think of, Mark, is one of the first things I thought of was, got a hockey team now in Las Vegas. Now we're getting the Raiders. You got UNLV there. Do we get an NBA team? Do we get a MLB team? Is this kind of the start for Las Vegas to kind of make them a viable sports community and not just the place where, I want to gamble on sports. I want to go and gamble on events.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Vegas.
Well, it certainly is a place that has a lot of potential, but it's still risky. We have to kind of wait and see how it all works out for the Raiders, for the NHL before an MLB team suddenly pops up or an NBA team moves to Vegas. It's certainly possible, but I think it's dangerous too because of the ecosystem that's there is tourists and people who work on the Strip. I mean, essentially that's what it comes down to in the immediate vicinity that is Vegas. It's a very strange place.
It's kind of like a surrogate city.
Yeah, in a way. You're going to have an interesting people who are just actually live there and work within this kind of, gambling, hospitality, entertainment type of world. And then you'll have all the tourists who come, and they probably will enjoy seeing an NBA game or an NFL game, whatever it might be. They probably will enjoy that and be willing to make that part of the experience. But there's so much to compete with the gambling, with the clubs to go to, all the entertainment, all the shows, all the music that's there. There's so much to compete with. Not that a city like New York or Chicago or anything like that won't also have that, but man, you're not making your life easy walking into Las Vegas and expecting to really take over your fair share of the entertainment.
Do you expect Oakland fans to travel? Do you
No.
expect them to? Because I'm looking at an article here by Jeff Longwood on ESPN, and the headline reads, Raiders move will soon mean end of unique annual trip for Broncos. So it's already affecting the Bronco game, but also there are articles that say they expect Rovell on Raiders will move to Vegas, expects the fans to move with them. Expects them to follow them to Vegas.
It's not super far, so I mean, it's totally possible that they could. And I definitely think because the team is good right now, you will get people who stick with it.
Like, fuck it, this is my team.
Yeah, and it's a good it really is a good place to go and spend a weekend. People will, I'm sure, from Oakland say, you know what? 1 week out of the season, we'll go to a Raiders game, we'll hit some casinos, hit the bar, we'll make a weekend out of it. But, I mean, there's only so much you can do with that. You really have to be a real diehard fan or a really wealthy fan.
Travel that far every Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. And no one's going to do it every Sunday. There's no doubt about that. Let's say you go
to at least two, like if you're the diehard that goes to at least 2 games a year, or if you're a season ticket holder.
Yeah. If you're a season ticket holder, you're kind of screwed, right?
Well, it's one of those things where I guess I'm going to Vegas every weekend, or I'm selling I'm selling those tickets individually.
Yeah. So it's just interesting. I don't necessarily know how the carryover is going to work. It's not as clear cut as, say, the Rams or the Chargers. Well, there's definitely more question because the team is better.
The thing that this comes down to is I know that Brandon Marshall came out and said, well, I'm kind of nervous for rookies now that get drafted, come into that. But, like, to me, I saw that and I went, you know what? I trust the Raiders where they're at right now. Jack Del Rio's a good coach, keeps his team in line. And plus, this isn't a Raider team where you have like, we got to worry about problems in that team. No, it's led by Derek Carr. It's led by mature individuals in that locker room. That's where, like, I just wanted to touch that really quick where I don't really have a problem with that.
I think it'll be more of an issue than you do.
You're always going to get that one stupid person that makes a stupid mistake, but maybe the Raiders have to now focus more on hey, we got to draft people that will not do that. We don't have, we can't draft a Johnny Manziel because could you, like you mentioned before we recorded, could you imagine if Johnny Manziel got drafted by a Las Vegas team?
He loved Las Vegas. He would love to be there. But I think that it's going to be very difficult for a lot of young, immature, single men to go out to Las Vegas and not do something stupid. It really will. Also for the fact that now, the other teams in that division, with the Denver Broncos, the Chargers and everything, having to go to Vegas once a year. Now those teams have to think about, all right, we got to be strict when we're here. And maybe not. Maybe we're overreacting, but this is my initial reaction.
Treat it like a high school trip? Is that what you're saying,
That's
Sean?
kind of how I feel like.
Put the tape on the door?
Yeah, every
for the
once in a
rookies?
while these teams...
Just for the rookies.
Yeah, every once in a while these teams now have to do this. And maybe, like I said, maybe I'm totally overreacting, but this is my first reaction to it. I think it's just an extra level.
You know who will tell you you're overreacting? They will.
Probably,
They'll
yeah.
let you know.
Yeah, if I'm overreacting, you guys let me know in the comment section. Of course, obviously, you guys will be there for me. I just think that it's just an extra thing for two more reasons now. The NFL kind of tries to have this family thing to it. Las Vegas is not exactly the place.
It's not a family city.
And I bet there's a lot of let's not get into it in the comment sections, people. We don't need to call anybody social justice warriors or complain about feminists. But there's going to be a lot of groups out there who says, you guys, NFL is trying really hard with the domestic violence thing, and now they're going to go to a city, where prostitution is legal or something like that. I'm just saying we don't need to have the discussion. I'm just saying people are going to find the things conflicting.
Those people are going to be looking really hard. I heard Mike Golick say this today, and I agree with it. In 3 years, 2-3 years, it becomes the norm. And like he said,
prostitution?
Not the norm of, not prostitution. Not the norm of teams leaving, but okay, the Raiders are the Las Vegas Raiders. The Chargers are the LA Chargers. Yeah. The Rams are the LA Rams.
I'm just saying that for the NFL trying to put this face of we are family friendly.
Kind of hypocritical. Is that what you're saying?
It's a weird look. This kind of is a conflict with that. The only other thing that I would ask the question for is the older player, not the young kid that's drafted, not the kid who's 24, 25 trying to go in there.
We're talking that old, like Tom Brady?
Sure. Someone who has a family. Someone who is a Jay Cutler age with young kids and his wife. Are they going to want to move to Las Vegas?
Well, the thing is, and they mentioned this when we first started talking about it, you don't have to live in Las Vegas.
Of course
you can live in the suburbs of Las Vegas.
Of course you can.
I assume that a lot of the players might choose to do that, live in the outside suburbs, the higher class areas.
Well, here in Chicago, so how few players are living in Chicago?
Yeah.
They're living in Lake Forest.
Yeah,
they're living in the suburbs.
Look at Scotty Pods when he played for the White Sox, lived right in the south suburbs.
Yeah, he sure did. But it doesn't change the fact that you'll have these wives of the players. You'll have the player thinking about their kids and going, maybe I don't want them in this environment. There's a lot of really religious NFL players. That's something to think about too. A lot of these athletes are very religious based on the skills and the good fortune they have found themselves into.
Very thankful for those abilities.
I'm just asking the question of, and I'm not expecting answers. I'm not expecting this to be this is why you shouldn't go to Vegas. I'm more posing these will be the interesting things to look at. Is this going to pose something where a player says, you know what, maybe I'll go to Houston, or just wherever else they're looking at.
Free agency, it'll be interesting to see how it rolls in. I think as long as the team wins,
people like money. People like money.
Players will go there. If the Raiders are Super Bowl contenders, players will go there. That's what it comes down to.
Spend.
Or if they've got cash to spend. The last thing that I wanted to mention from my side was the moral of this story. And if you're a fan of the Raiders, you might be watching us and listening to this point going, well, F you, Ricky, but this is really the moral of the story for me. If you want a team in this day and age to stay, your city and your politicians have to pony up the dough and give them a stadium. That's what you have to do.
No, fuck that. It's not up to the city to pay for a stadium.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's either you give them a new stadium, and I'm saying across the board, the city, fans,
fuck that. It's not the city's responsibility.
Because in each...
An NFL team makes enough money.
I'm just saying, in each area, why did the Rams leave? Why did the Chargers leave? Why did the Raiders leave? They couldn't get a new stadium, so they left to where they could get one.
So in other words, if you want to enjoy your team, let them hold you hostage, is what Ricky is saying. Because you're screwed. What happens if your city doesn't have the money to do it? But this team that makes millions, if not billions, in the year, and it is billions probably, they can't pony up the cash. They can pay a player, $14 million a year.
I'm not
but they
saying
can't
it
get
entirely has to be on the city, but like look at San Diego where they had the vote for, and of course that was one where the San Diego one, that was the people. Yeah. They had the vote on election day for it. It didn't pass. That's how it is. That's how elections work. But like for the Raiders, I look at this situation and really, I look at this and go, if Oakland, and I'm not talking about the fans here. Of course, the fans want their team, but if the city wanted this team, they would have made an effort years ago to say, you know what?
It's not their responsibility.
Right. Well, the thing that makes the Raiders situation so unique is they're playing in a baseball field. If I was a football player, I'd be like, well, this ain't my stadium.
Can I inform you of something? And all the people listening at home? This is just from Google, so you can only take it at a grain of salt here. But Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders, his net worth is $500 million. That guy can buy his own fucking stadium. I'm not
saying that the owner of the team can't buy a stadium. Look at what Jerry Jones did with Jerry World. And that's even another point. Look at the teams, like I think off the top of my head, the Cowboys, the Vikings. I'm even going to go with the New England Patriots. Look at those teams. What's one reason? Well, besides the Patriots for being a winning franchise and Dallas kind of being a Cowboy city,
they can't leave.
Dallas would blow up if the Cowboys left. What do each of those three teams have? A very nice stadium. The Vikings have a brand new one. They're not leaving Minnesota anytime soon, even if they wanted to. The Dallas Cowboys are going to die in Jerry World now. And then even look at Gillette. Gillette's been there forever from what it seems. And it's a really nice stadium for the teams to go in. So the thing that I think of is if you're a city and you're like, I don't care if the team leaves, fine. Don't try to work with the team to try to get the stadium. But the moral of this story, and it's happened now 3 times in a row, if a team doesn't get their stadium, bye guys, we're leaving.
Yeah. The moral of the story is that these owners are entitled little bastards. If you're worth that much money, and I'm sure there's some owner out there who's only worth $25 million as opposed to $100-some million. But if you're worth that much money and your team makes you that much a year, these teams aren't making thousands. They're making millions, tens of, hundreds of. They have the money. They can do it.
And that's where it comes into, we kind of tie this full circle. What does this mean for the NFL? The NFL's a business. That's what it is. These owners are only going to do stuff which is going to benefit them. And the owners aren't going to pay for a stadium all out of their own pocket. Even think back to the Madden games when you were relocating a team. You had to put the plan where, okay, how much does the city pay for? How much do I pay for? And to me, the way I kind of look at it is it's got to be, you could say, well, no, fuck it, the owner makes enough money, he's got to pay for all of it. But to me, it's got to be a two-way street. It's got to be one of those things where you have a little give and take on each side. And it's one of those things where in these 3 cases, Oakland being one of it, Oakland decided, hey, you know what? This city doesn't want to have us here. For how long have they had? In this one, to me, I think the make or break point was hey, we're no longer sharing a stadium with a baseball team.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where the Raiders probably looked at the Warriors and went, hey, they're getting the fuck out of here. They're leaving. They're going and they actually have a stadium that people like in the Oracle. They have a really nice stadium in the Oracle, and they're moving to the Bay and moving to San Francisco. So it's one of those things. That's where I'm looking at it on the outside. It comes down to, if a team's not going to get their stadium, they're going to leave. And that's just the bottom line. Any last thoughts from you?
I have an answer to my own question, which is maybe a year old, so it's probably a little outdated. Mark Davis is the owner who is worth the least at $500 million, tied with Dan Rooney of Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Brown is also less than $1 billion. Everyone else is worth $1 billion or more. So, these guys can afford their own damn stadium.
Well, and really what it comes down to is what you guys think. Let us know down below. What do you think about the Raiders moving to Las Vegas? What do you think about the last thing we talked about, to me, with the moral of the story, where, because all three have that same common denominator of, I want a new stadium. Fuck it, I'm getting my new stadium. And
if not, I'm going home. If we're not going to play my game, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home.
They're taking their ball and they're going home. I mean, and the one thing, correct me if I'm wrong, Kroenke spent most of the money on that stadium, right? So with
he did a lot of those improvements.
Fuck it, that's
he
my
also
stadium.
is worth the second most out of all the owners.
Yeah, he has a ton of money to spend. But let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section about anything we talked about with the Raiders moving to Las Vegas.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And don't worry, there is plenty more where that came from. You guys can check it out right over here. Click that video, start watching it, and just stick around on Most Valuable Podcasts.